many points. Look at the Boston players mobbing.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away. Thompson in. 51 for Jayson Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Welcome to the Big Three NBA podcast. NBA season may be over, but as you know, we never sleep here on the Big Three NBA podcast. First on the agenda, congratulations to Kemba Walker, who actually announced his retirement via social media on Tuesday. 12 seasons, four-time All-Star, Charlotte Hornets all-time leading scorer. Obviously, Gary and Sherrod, we got a chance to know him here in Boston. So what is your reaction to his retirement?
Good dude. I mean, the thing about Kemba Walker, when I think about him as a person more than a player. He was a hell of a player when he was in Charlotte. Wasn't as good here in Boston, but just a genuinely good dude. I remember, there were times where, after he had left Boston, we'd run into him on the road. And he was just, again, no ill will toward Boston for parting ways with him. And just genuinely, you talk to people like Kemba Walker, and again, as much as he gave so many cats buckets, and I know that because when he was at UConn, he gave my Qs plenty of buckets. He's a genuinely good dude. Shut up, Gary. Nobody asked you your opinion. Shut up, Cal.
He didn't even say anything.
Shut up, Gary. He moving ahead like this. He was that body language. Shut up, Gary.
You ain't never lied.
But Kemba's a good dude, man. Even though he was killing my Qs, he was still a good dude that I had much respect for his game, much respect for the man, and I wish him the best of luck in his post basketball life. Hopefully he stays close to the game. I would love if he wound up being a development coach or an assistant coach on an NBA team. Celtics might have a spot open. Just saying. Or he might wind himself on Charles Lee's staff in Charlotte, which would make a lot of sense if you think about it. So we'll see what happens with Kemba. But, again, wish him the best of luck, man.
Yeah. I feel bad for Kemba because it should have worked out better in Boston. He just wasn't completely healthy. It was a great alternative to Kyrie Irving, when they went out and got him from Charlotte and did the sign and trade, and it was time to move on from Kyrie, and it seemed like it was going to fit perfectly. A team guy who hadn't had a lot of success and was ready to win a championship or make a run at a championship, and it just didn't in his couple of seasons in Boston. That, you can go back to that Chicago All-Star game where I think he kind of played on a bad knee, and he was never the same. That first half of that season, the 18-19 season, I thought was tremendous, and it looked like it was going to work. And then he was just not the same player. Then I remember in the bubble, Toronto coach Nick Nurse kept going at him on the pick and roll and kind of exposing him because he had lost a step. And then, he tried, to come back again the next year and tried to push it, and it just wasn't going to work. And I know he tried to hang on, went to the Knicks and for a minute and had a couple of good games with them, and it didn't work out there either. And then I know last year I think he played in Monaco, played overseas. So he probably could have kept playing internationally and played until he was 40. But I think for him to go out on his own terms, and I think it's a lesson that not everything is promised. In 34. Kemba's not old. There's plenty of 34-year-olds in the league. Klay Thompson, 34. Paul George, 34. But it just depends on how well your body treats you and how well you take care of your body. And sometimes the bad luck. And I think Kemba was always in great shape and was always that first step was a killer. But then once that knee started to bother him, he lost his step, and it was hard. So I applaud him for going out on his own terms. I wish it had worked out better with the Celtics because he deserved that. He deserved to make a real run at the championship. And, he got the Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble. But it just obvious, unfortunately, that he wasn't the same player. And I seen as much as – I don't know if Kemba cooked the Celtics as much as he cooked Syracuse.
Shut up, Gary.
I don't know about all that, right? I would assume he cooked Syracuse many, many many more times.
Shut up, Gary.
Cook the Celtics, but I definitely seen him cook the Celtics when he was with Charlotte, plenty of times. So, but it's good to see him. Hopefully, we'll see, about the Hall of Fame and whether that's in his plans or in the sights down the road. And like Sherrod said, what he'll do after. I think he has a lot to offer the game. Inspirational story, kid from New York. So, kudos to Kemba. I feel bad for him because I think it should have worked out better in Boston. If his knee holds up, do they have a chance at the championship in the bubble? Yes, I think they do.
Well, like we mentioned, in general, the Celtics have not necessarily been off cutting checks in the last few weeks. Sam Hauser option was picked up, $2.1 million, undrafted free agent in 2025. Luke Cornett re-signed 1-year deal. Keita, new deal, 2 years. Derrick White, not surprising, he got an extension, 4 years, $125 million. And of course, the big one, Jayson Tatum, with the Supermax extension, 5 years, $314 million. But all that to say, which deal do you guys like the most, and which one do you like the least?
Which one you like, Gary?
I don't know if I have one that I like the least. I think bringing Derrick White back was great. Because his price was going to continue to go up as much as he played. You did not want him to be entering free agency, and you never know what can happen there. And he likes Boston. He's comfortable in his role. It's been a perfect fit. So why not just keep him for the long term? And then, obviously, if you need to trade him in the deal, you probably can, because the prices are all going up. And trading a guy with a $30 million contract is not as daunting as it was 5 or 6, 7 years ago. So I think it was a great decision to bring Derrick back. Jayson, I think everybody knew it was a foregone conclusion. He was going to sign the Supermax. He's going to be here till the end of the decade at least. He's just finished his 7th year. He signs a 5-year extension. I think that kicks in. So he's under control of the franchise for another 6 years. He has a player option in that 5th year. I think it's $71 million. So hopefully we'll still be around, and we'll see if he walks away from $71 million. That's a hell of an option. I know Paul George opted out of $48 million, and people, what the hell? Man, I don't care about those circumstances. I ain't opted out no $48 million. Like, you going to have to. That's a hard ass.
Oh yeah.
But Paul George did, and he ended up getting $50 million. From the 76ers, so it worked out. But man, if I was signing that opt out, I'd be. You opt out of $71 million.
Hands shaking.
You're gonna get. Sign that opt out. I'll be like, shoot, that's a lot of money. But good for Jayson. Good, and I said I don't think it was a bad deal. Bringing Sam back. Sam, you might lose the free agency next summer. Or you can work out a deal to bring him back. But like Sherrod mentioned with that second apron, man, them tax dollars is going to be a lot. And but you got the foundation to make multiple runs. And, Wick, Grossbeck, putting the team up. I know it's hard for him, but the team is in a good spot to contend for many years. And now, as we've seen, we can talk about Philadelphia and New York are both coming after the Celtics now. So the Celtics need to reinforce and bring some guys back. And I'm sure during free agency, when the market kind of starts to level off, and they'll probably bring in a couple of new guys to reinforce their roster.
Yeah, for me, the contract that I like the most out of all of these is the one that we really didn't know was going to come to fruition, and that's Keita. I think he's a really talented young player, and that's a guy that I think he's going to outperform that contract. And it was important that they made him they waived him and then re-signed him to the deal because. When you start looking at this roster and you start looking at that front court specifically, there's a lot of uncertainty as to the direction that they're going to go with their front court. I mean, Al is getting older. Porzingis is not going to be there at the start of the season. And beyond that, it's like, what you going to do? Your wings and your backcourt are straight. I mean, those guys are signed, sealed, delivered for years to come. But what about your front court? Do you have any young talent that you're developing? And no disrespect to Luke Cornett, but he is not someone you're developing. You don't see him as a potential long-term fix for you in the middle, whereas Kata, he ain't there yet, but Kata has the potential to be someone that could help you in a significant manner down the road. That deal I like a lot. The one deal I don't like, that would be our good friend Sam Hauser's deal. And I'll tell you why. Because Sam was able to be the best version of Sam Hauser in the most critical stretch of your season, the NBA Finals. And now you are basically, you're putting him out there where he's going to be available to other teams to bid on, and there's nothing you can really do to control that other than outbid them and hope that you can, keep one of the best, certainly one of, if not the best pure shooter on your team in tow down the road. Now, the Celtics, to their credit, they have buffered themselves of the possibility of losing Sam by what they did in the draft and what they've done in the G League when you talk about the Peterson kid. So it's not as if Sam leaves, they don't have any options they can turn to. But Sam is their best option in that regard. And Sam is a guy that they have developed and has gotten better. You look at what he does defensively now. Some of the things he did in the finals, which I didn't even know was in his bag, he had a couple of just dribble drive pull-ups or mid-range shots. He starts making that shot, he becomes a double-digit scorer for you easily because his three-point shooting is great. And if he's hitting mid-range shots because you're closing out too tight on his perimeter game, he becomes a lethal weapon for you. And that's a guy that's going to have significant value when he hits the open market. And as we've talked about, we touched on earlier, that second apron is going to limit the Celtics and what they can do with some of their players, some of their non-core/franchise players like Sam Hauser. So that's why, to me, I really wish they were able to get something done extension-wise with him, because I just think that his value is going to be significantly greater on the open market once he hits that and his current contract with the Celtics lapses.
Well, Gary already alluded to it, and I'm sure most Celtics fans have heard by now that the Celtics are for sale. Just a few days after winning the banner, there was an announcement that the team is looking for potential bidders and buyers. Wick paid $360 million for this team in 2002, for perspective. And now they've won 2 championships since. But why do you think he's selling now, and what kind of changes do you foresee a new ownership group potentially making to this team?
Here's the thing about Wick. Wick, first and foremost, loves the Celtics, but beyond that, he's a businessman. And the value that this team has not been any greater than it is right now. And when Wick bought the team, he was very intentional with his goal of winning championships, plural, not singular. He's done that. He's won 2 championships. And the Celtics, they've had at least 2, 3, possibly 3 other opportunities to win championships during the decade and some change he's been, the majority owner of this team. So he has done all that an owner is supposed to do in terms of producing a winner, actually winning championships, and keeping your team relevant in the grand ecosystem of whatever league you're in. Now it's time to get paid. If we're just keeping it a buck, the Phoenix Suns sold for like $4 billion. The Celtics will easily surpass the $5 billion mark when they find a bidder. But to me, and Gary and I, we were talking about this, before we went on camera. My concern with the selling of the team is that it's not going to happen as quickly as some people might think. When you look at the Celtics, you look at the history, you look at the reputation, you look at all the things that make them who they are. They are NBA royalty. Let's be real about that. That comes at a significantly high price, even if they weren't any good. The fact that they are at the top of the food chain right now, they could potentially get $6 billion for this team. Now, there are not a lot of individuals or groups or entities that will have the ability to pay that kind of money. Throw on the fact that you are not going to make a profit off of this team anytime soon because of that second apron status that they're going to have for a while. And you're not going to be able to necessarily significantly grow internally because of that second apron that you are past. You're going to have limitations on what you can do with your roster. You're going to have limitations on what you can do in terms of free agents and signing and your draft picks. So there are some issues that the Celtics are going to have coming up because of they went all in and cut all those checks as you mentioned earlier, Kwani. But make no mistake about it, at the end of the day, Wick is going to get paid in a big, big, big way.
You want to catch the hottest games this summer, but don't want to mortgage the family home or take a second job to do so, right? Game Time makes getting tickets to events like WNBA games even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. That's a huge get when it comes to getting great deals at the ballpark or basketball arena nearest you. Here in Boston, every season is sporting season. So for me, the Game Time app makes it super easy to find tickets for just about every sport in my area, which is great this time of year when family and friends just happen to pop into town at the last minute and you're scrambling to find something to do, and you're trying to find something to do that won't break the bank, like getting tickets to see the red-hot Red Sox play, who are playing some of their best baseball right now. Game Time has you covered. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Yeah, I think with Wick, he wants to work out. It sounds like some. Remember, Wick's father is the one who's 90 years old now, is kind of the money man, and Wick is settling some family estate situations, and I'm sure being in the second apron doesn't help because it's expensive to run a professional sports team. But Wick is not, like, I'll say it like this: if Steve Ballmer had Wick's money, he'd be crying. And what I mean by that is that Wick is a private owner. Like, Steve Ballmer's one of the richest guys in the world, and that's what the NBA is gearing toward. And Wick and Steve are rich guys, but not that ultra rich to where it's not, we can just, hand out money like it's going out of style. I think there needs to be some readjustments in the financial structure of the Celtics in terms of who's going to own it. Is it going to be a conglomerate, a casino, a business, or is it going to be one rich guy who's like, hey, I'd like to own a sports team, but let's look. Recently, Mark Cuban got out the game and cashed out, and he's more passionate than any owner. Wick's more passionate, but I think some of these guys are seeing the writing on the wall with the second apron, and then it's like, hey, nobody's getting any younger. You start getting into your 60s and near 70. What happens if something happens to you, or what happens if something happens to what's the estate going to be like, or whatever. And so I think that's probably a personal decision, and there's no better time to sell a team than after a championship, especially a team, one of the benchmarks of the NBA is the Celtics. So I don't blame Wick at all. I'm going to miss Wick, but he's going to be around. It sounds like it's going to be a tiered thing, which is going on now in Minnesota, which has not gone well, right? The previous the owner selling, Glenn Taylor, said that Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry, who are the two buyers, didn't meet conditions for the sale. They are accusing him of having seller's remorse because the Timberwolves make the Western Conference Finals and everybody loves Minnesota Timberwolves basketball and Anthony Edwards, and everything's great. Life's good in Minnesota, and why would you want to sell a team now? But so that's a situation to look out for. And it'll be interesting. The league, I'm sure, is going to have very involved and very interested in how this team, one of their benchmark franchises, sells. There's one thing about the Phoenix Suns or Milwaukee Bucks or Minnesota Timberwolves, but this is the Celtics. It's like if Celtics, Lakers, or Knicks go on sale, that's an issue. That's something the league's going to keep abreast of. And what's the new plan for the new owner? Is he or she going to want to build a new arena? They're going to want to move the team out of the downtown Boston. I'm not saying these are, do you want to move the team to land? You want to buy some land and build a brand new state-of-the-art arena? Do you want to continue to have the partnership with the Bruins at the Garden? Because remember, the Celtics do not own the Garden. So it's a lot of questions up. And I know, when I know the Boston this ownership group won the All-Star game. Is that still into play? They wanted it for 2029. Is that still into play? So it's all going to be interesting to see who bids, and it might be like Sherrod alluded to, it might be difficult. But I think there's one sports crazy billionaire who's like, let me see what I can put together, what kind of group I can put together. And do you highlight it with a major athlete? Do you call Kevin Garnett? Do you call Paul Pierce? Do you call, and say, hey, can you be the face of one of the faces of our ownership group, like Alex Rodriguez is with the Minnesota group? How popular does that go? Where you get a familiar face, someone who's known in Boston to kind of front the group, as opposed to a strange guy nobody knows, and then people don't trust him. And I wrote in my column today, I covered when the Seattle Supersonics were up for sale in 2006, and they sold the team. Howard Schultz sold the team in 5 months to a guy from Oklahoma. He could have found local buyers. He took the highest bid, right? He could have taken his time and said, you know what? I'm going to sell this team to somebody who want to keep the team in Seattle, or a local Northwest buyer. He did, and he sold to Oklahoma, and he got the hell out. And then that's why the Sonics are in Oklahoma. Now, that's never going to happen in Boston, but you're also dealing with somebody, if they purchase a team, who's got new ideas, fresh ideas. They might be a tech guy. They might want to do a lot of things. So that's the risk. It could be a good thing, or it could be a not so good thing. Can Steve Paliuca come up with enough partnerships and money to buy Wick's share out? And then everything goes smoothly like it was. So a lot of questions. It could be exciting, but it also could be a little uncomfortable.
Daunting, yeah.
Because you don't know who's going to come in and buy the team. And whether that's a newcomer, whether that's someone who's already made bids for other teams around the country and fell on short, and now they can jump on the Celtics, or somebody out of the blue, a billionaire who says, wow, that's kind of fun. I'd like to own the Celtics. Boy, my dad used to love the Celtics, and just says, okay, here's $5 billion, Wick. When can I move into my offices? So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Gary, one person that I don't care who they get to buy the team, just don't let it be John Henry. Just don't let it be a group that John Henry is part of, because I'm telling you now, Gary, I'm speaking for many. I'm speaking for many. I know you can't. I ain't expecting you to comment. I'm just saying, when you look at the track record, you look at the foundational pieces that have walked out that door, that Red Sox bullpen, that Red Sox dugout, to other franchises with nothing in return, because ownership was too damn penny pinching to actually pay players their value. It wasn't like you were trying to pay them something that they hadn't earned. They literally were asking for, this is my value on the open market.
The only Betts was the only one that was just a mistake. Okay.
You don't think Bogarts was a mistake?
What's San Diego done since he's been there? And he's hurt now. And I'm not defending.
It's not about. It's the player's value, Gary.
You all your own guys, but to me, if you want to structure the highest paying teams, I'm a Dodgers fan, okay? And the Dodgers won one World Series in 36 years. One. You know how much money they spent this year? I'm not defending. Obviously, there's some decisions that are questionable, but to me, the Bogarts thing, that guy got $280 million. See you, bruh. Like you could develop, and it's just to me, I've seen it. You want to know? You want to be a Yankee? You a Yankee fan, Sherrod? You know how much money they spend?
A lot.
When's the last time they won a World Series?
It's been a minute.
2009.
It's been a minute.
2009. The Kansas City Royals have won a World Series since the damn. The Washington Nationals have won a World Series since the Yankees.
It's been a minute.
Texas Rangers have won a World Series. Baseball is like, you just don't know. You can shell out all that money. How much money did the Phillies give Bryce Harper? Have the Phillies won a World Series? Nope. So it is difficult. And I'm not defending anybody. But I think there'll be an affluent owner who will come in. Maybe, Joe Lacob owns the Warriors, but he was a minority. Maybe he gets an ownership group and says, you know what? I want to own the Celtics now. Like, this is an unusual situation. Usually, the Mark Cuban brand of owner, the kind of youngish, really rich, techie guy, that's kind of growing. Look, Matt Ishbia with Phoenix, the guy who owns the Pistons, and you talking about spending money. He gave Monty Williams $70-something million to go away. Like, you talking about spending money? Is that good? Is that sound spending, Sherrod?
But here's the difference, though, Gary. That the people that you're talking about have made mistakes. I don't dispute that at all. But it hasn't been part of their narrative because they haven't been in the game long enough to make things right. John Henry has been in the game for a long time, and this is part of his MO.
They won the World Series in 2018. They beat my Dodgers.
That's because your Dodgers suck.
You think I want to bring that up?
That's because your Dodgers suck. They don't know how to cool. They're not cool.
The guy spent a lot of money. So I think, I don't know. I don't know who's going to bid for it. I think if you're going to bid for the Celtics, you got to be ready to spend money. You look at the situation, the person's going to look at the books and go, wow, we're paying two dudes over $600 million. Okay. We're paying another guy 130, another guy 130. But everything else is pretty much set. The Celtics are going to have to figure out a way. And like, I know you mentioned Sam Hauser, but do you want to pay Sam Hauser $18 million a year?
No, I don't.
Okay. I understand that. So that's why you draft Baylor Scheierman and hope he's under control, and you develop him and you hope that he can replace, like you mentioned, Hauser, and Hauser takes the money. Because let's be honest, Sherrod, everybody talks about, they let go Max Strus signed a 4-year, $64 million deal with Cleveland and shot 34% from three this year. That ain't work out. George Niang signed a contract with Cleveland. He was on the bench during most of the playoffs. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy, and just fork over the money to Hauser. I think that'd be great, but do you want to pay him $18 million? They didn't want to pay Grant Williams, right? That worked out for him. Like, hey, we love you, Grant, but we ain't paying 12, 13, 14. You got to make some hard decisions when two of your guys are making 50 or 60. Another two guys and three guys now are making 30. Like, that's how it goes. Derrick White turned himself from a $17 million a year player to a $30 million a year player with his improvement. Porzingis is a $30 million. Those are $30 million a year guys are not super duper stars anymore like it was 10 years ago. So whoever inherits this team is going to have to figure out, and the Celtics have enough astute management to figure out the salary cap, but eventually they're going to have to get out that second apron. Eventually they're going to have to go frugal. You keep your star players and all that. They ain't going to be trading nobody, but you're going to have to cut it down to lower that tax bill, unless you have an owner who's like, F it. For years, and we know, Sherrod, the Warriors group was like, here. Like, and, they started, they were like, we wanted championships. They got 4. They paid a grip. Now, they didn't want to pay Klay. We talk about that. Like, they're like, we're not going to win like that. We ain't spending all that money.
Right. And that's what it comes back to, Gary. Ultimately, are you willing to pay the price to win? And if that price is too high to win, or you are paying a price that is not going to win, you're going to look to cut costs. That absolutely makes sense. I get that. The Celtics ain't there yet, but you're right. I mean, at some point, you can see down the line in 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, they absolutely will be in that position where they're going to have to make some real hard, gut-wrenching calls on guys that they don't want to part with, but they may have to just because of just the economics.
And then you're going to have to draft well, like they did.
You have to draft at the end of the first round because that's where you're going to be.
You're going to have to find guys off the street like they did with Hauser. You're going to have to really be astute in terms, like they took 2 guys here who are cheap, going to come cheap with Scheierman and Watson, who are 23 years old. So they
5-year guys. 5-year guys.
Ready to contribute. Like they no more of these 19-year-old kids who are going to take 5 years to figure out. No. So it's like, we're going to need productive, cheaper players, and that's how you have to start building and rebuilding your system and your bench to be able to sustain this, because you got, I said, 2 guys making 50, 3 guys making 30.
When you start adding up all them coins, it's just like, yo, this is a heavy sack, yo. How is this sustainable? And I think that's the challenge that the Celtics are going to have, is just really trying to figure out how to continue to be an elite team while still building for the future without the kind of assets that your opponents are going to have, teams that you're competing with are going to have. The way that their roster is shaping up in terms of the economics of it, they're going to have a hard time avoiding that second apron and falling into that, second apron area 2 out of 4 years, which then triggers a completely different set of problems and challenges, or having that first round pick frozen in 7 years, which is very likely to be the case because of them being, surpassing that second apron. So that they are going to be in a fight. They're going to at some point be in a huge financial heap of trouble. The only solace that they can take Gary, to you, as you pointed out, is win championships. If you're able to win championships, and then at some point you have to start breaking off major pieces because you just, financially speaking, can't afford to keep being in that second apron, your fan base is going to be like, you know what? It sucks that we got to part ways with this player, but damn, we got 4 championships in 6 years, and we got 3 titles in a 5-year window. It was absolutely worth it for us to have to part ways with them, because even though we got to rebuild and start over, we had a great run. And that's really what the Celtics are trying to do here. They're trying to set themselves up for a great run. And again, not giving Wick too much credit, but you got to get a man his flowers. He put his money where his mouth was. He said that he was willing to pay with the cost of winning championship. And he's done that. And not only have they won 2 titles, but they're positioned to win multiple titles going forward because of the contracts that they were able to get done during this season, and the ones that they were able to do in the first hours and days when free agency started. So they are in a good position. There's no doubt about that for the short term. I think New York, they've got the defensive versatility that can cause the Celtics some trouble. They've got a coach who's very defensive-minded, which, again, I think to beat the Celtics, you're not going to beat them if your focus is scoring, getting buckets. Your best shot at beating them in a best-of-7 is to have an elite defensive unit, and I think New York has the potential to be very good in that regard. They're not perfect. They certainly have their holes, and I'm thinking specifically about Brunson being very good at one end of the floor and not that great at the other. But overall, I think New York is probably their biggest threat at this point coming out of the East.
Yeah, I'd agree with Sherrod. I like Philadelphia. I mean, getting Paul George could be a wonderful move for them, but he's also 34 years old, and you paid him the max. That'll be interesting to see how that works out, how he adapts to playing in a market like Philadelphia. They also brought back Kelly Oubre, which I thought was a good move. But the one thing Philadelphia really doesn't have is a point guard. That's why they got Kyle Lowry in the last year. You don't want Maxey being a high-scoring, high-assist guy. I don't know if he can do all that. You want him to be kind of that combo guard, and you want him to kind of play the 2, and you want a ball handler. So we'll see what they do in terms of a point guard, whether they sign somebody cheap or they just let Maxey handle it. But I like the upper core of Philadelphia, but I think the Knicks have more depth. They lost Hardenstein to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we're going to have to see what happens. And I think Precious Achiuwa is now gone to a free agent. We're going to have to see what happens with Mitchell Robinson, whether he can sustain it. He's kind of Robert Williams-esque in terms of injuries. When he's on the floor, he's effective. When he's not, Miles McBride's a guy who's played well for them, and Josh Hart. So I think both teams have vastly improved. Anunoby's a real a tough guy defensively who can guard both Jayson and Jalen, and is going to give them that versatile defenders along with Bridges. So I'm going to give the edge to New York. considering we'll see what Philly does the rest of the summer. Do they try to fill some other roles? They're losing some guys. They lost Batum to the Clippers. I don't know if Lowry will be back. I'm sure he still wants to play, but do you give him a prominent role there, bring him back? Obviously, Tobias Harris, bye-bye. We can talk about Sherrod's team, the Detroit Pistons, giving that dude
$26 million. My goodness.
God. For a guy who's just like a third or fourth. I mean, what's wrong in Detroit, man? What's wrong? It's cold out there in the D, man. What's wrong with Detroit, man? His dad's his agent. I mean, his dad should be agent of the year for that contract.
Facts.
I thought he was going to get maybe mid-level, maybe 20 at the most, or maybe a one-year deal to prove it. And he got $52 million over 2 years from a team he's already played for that is trying to get to the next step. And then they bring in Tim Hardaway Jr., another guy who I was like, what's Detroit doing? I know they got to pay money to somebody. Because they got to get off the salary floor. But that's a hell of a floor, man. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias, what's going on, Sherrod? You the Detroit guy. What's wrong with you, man? Troy Weaver gone. I know they didn't pay $78 million for money to go away. Good hire in J.B. Bickerstaff. I like J.B. Bickerstaff. I think he's improved immensely as a coach, a good defensive coach. He's a younger guy. He'll get along with those guys. He'll figure it out. But if your two main attractions are Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris.
You forget about Cade? Forgot about Cade?
Cade's great. But, I mean, you going to buy tickets? You going to get Pistons season tickets? To see Tobias Harris? Come see Tobias Harris go for 3 for 10. Like, I don't know, Sherrod. What's wrong, man? Like, I really want Detroit. Detroit's a great city. As Vinny will tell you, our friend Vinny Goodwill, one of my favorite NBA cities. I've always had a lot of fun in Detroit.
Yes, he has.
One of my favorite cities over the years. And I want them to be decent. And it's like they give Tobias Harris $52 million. $52 million over 2 years.
Gary was thinking he would get $5.2 million.
Yeah, 5.2. Yeah, who was 5.2 over 2? Way to go. 52. They gave him $52 million. He didn't even want to shoot in the Eastern Conference series against the Knicks. Like, he did not take a shot in that game. That decided he did not take a shot. I watched him. Like, he had no points. He didn't score. Like, bro, Tim Hardaway couldn't get on the floor during the finals. And
you made the most of that garbage time, though. You made the most of that garbage
time. Yay.
Count it.
Sherrod, you need to make some calls in Detroit, man. I'm just saying. If it's let's get Isaiah in there. I don't know. Somebody, I mean, what's wrong, man? What's wrong? It's cold.
It's got me choked up just thinking about it, Gary. Got me choked up just thinking about it, man.
I know, man. You were there. And happy 20th anniversary to Sherrod Blakely, who covered the Pistons in 2004. The last time the last championship. It's been a long 20 years, man. It's been a long time coming. Yeah. Been a long time coming. Long 20 years, man. Since Pistons won a title. I know kids can't even believe it. Like, come on, man. The Pistons didn't win no title. I know you
ain't gonna win a title.
Like, hey, what the Pistons? Come on, man. They ain't won no title. Hell no. But they actually did, kids. Remember, look it up, Google it. They did win a title. Sherrod was there.
I was there. I was there.
And it was in Detroit. They were the Pistons. You know, they had good players, good management, good coach. So, so shout out to the Pistons.
We had our moment, man. We had our moment. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
But
it is a wrap.
But so let me ask you. So Sherrod, I mean, we could end on this Klay Thompson thing. What do you think? What do you think of him going to Dallas? Him kind of telling the Warriors, you know what you can do with your, I'm out. Like he visibly wanted out. Like they were not going to get him back. And does that make the Mavericks better now? They got Derrick Jones went to the Clippers. Josh Green got traded to the Hornets, so they've replaced Green and Williams, Hardaway, and Derrick Jones with Quentin Grimes, who I don't know why the Pistons traded him. I don't
either.
Don't know why the Pistons traded that guy.
That's going to come back to bite them. That is going to come back to bite them.
You don't trade a 24-year-old for a 32-year-old or whatever, but whatever. Grimes, Klay, and I forgot the third guy that they got.
They're going to be pretty good. I mean, Dallas, I think Dallas, what they've done is they've solidified their place among that top 3, top 4 teams out west. I don't think that this makes them a lock to get back to the finals because I still think that Denver is going to be in the mix. I think Minnesota is going to be even better. They're going to use this year to learn from that and be, I think, a little bit better locked in come playoff time. Oklahoma City, I love them getting Hartenstein. I think that is going to be the low-key sleeper pickup that's going to catapult them, I think, back to being a team that, to me, they're the front runner to come out of the West, in my opinion. When you look at the one question mark they had, I thought this past year was Giddey. And that's the one guy that's no longer in the picture. And the one question mark I had with them was just how physical could they really be? They add one of the best offensive rebounders in the game, a guy who significantly stepped his game up in the playoffs for the Knicks last year. So but to your original question about Dallas, I think Dallas is going to be one of the top 4 teams. I got them right up there with Minnesota, right up there with Denver and OKC. I think that's your top 4. The Clippers, I don't know what to make of them at this point. They playoff team at best. And obviously, the Lakers, there's always going to be a lot of talk about the Lakers, whether they're good or garbage. I think they're going to be similar to what they were last year, trying to get into the playoffs on the back end, maybe as, no better than maybe a 7th seed, but more likely a play-in type of team. And LeBron, it'll be okay with LeBron because he get to play with his boy, literally play with his boy, his son. So it's a win-win for LeBron. And we haven't talked about it, but I'm not as bothered by that as some people are. About him playing with his son and about his son going, 55th pick overall. Because if you're the Lakers, think about this. You get a player late in the second round who may or may not pan out. Guys taking that late, we know. I mean, to me, one of the best number 55 picks ever was Etuan Moore for the Celtics, who's taken with the 55th pick. And he had a great career. He was in the league for like 10 years. That's the best case scenario. Guys taking that low almost never make it.
You have a special perspective on this, okay? Because you have a son who is a journalist. Now he's more of a producing behind the scenes guy. Yeah. But your son, since when was his first Black Journalist Convention? When he was 15, 16?
Probably he was like 7 or 8.
Okay, you brought him, so he grew up in our game, grew up in our industry. Okay. Mm-hmm. He wants to be like you, okay? And you're like, well, I want us to work at the same place. So, hey, Isaiah, why don't you just drop out of college and then get a stringer's job at my paper? Then we'll be working at the same paper. Yay! Like when let's say you're at NBC Sports Boston. Yeah, they got a intern's job. Drop out of school and work full-time there and see what happens, and we'll be at the same place. We can take pictures together and look good and father-son. And no. Okay? No, you're not exactly. So I don't have a problem with the nepotism. As I said on Max's podcast with Josue Pavone, I don't have a problem with the nepotism. I don't have the problem maneuvering to get 55, pulling the Suge Knight thing and telling teams don't draft my guy or see what happens.
That was so gangster. That was so gangster.
I don't have a problem with Rich Paul. What I have a problem with is if I had a son who wanted to be in my industry, I don't want him skipping steps. I want him to have the best, longest career possible. I don't want him coming to the NBA when he's completely not ready, so he can be on my team and get all this training. Because you've jump-started his grown man life, okay? LeBron Jr. is now a grown man. There's no more going back to college, no more college parties, no more the girls and all that. The fun that you have when you're growing and finding yourself. He is now a grown man, 19 years old, were born probably 2005. I mean, shoot. I mean, that's not that damn long ago. Okay? And just because you want to play with your son, you force this issue. And you got him, I want to go to the league. Like, you're not good enough yet. And it's okay. Like, and I said on the other podcast with Max, people would compare this to Griffey Jr. and Griffey Sr.
A little different.
No. When Ken Griffey Jr. got out of high school, he was the number 1 overall pick in the Major League Draft. He was the truth. Now, Bronny went number 1. That's a whole different story. Bronny went 55th. He wasn't a first-round pick even to think, not even close. So why would you force the clock to start? Even, you could have done it next year. You could have said, Bronny, transfer you didn't like USC. Okay, that's not your school. That's not worked out for you. Go to Ohio State. Go be a Buckeye. Go to Duquesne, where LeBron's high school teammate now is coach. Go somewhere, play a full year, play the position, go only to a school that says they'll let you play point. I want to play point. He can work that out. He'll get NIL money, whatever he wants. He'll get, and then play a full year, and then maybe play yourself into the first round. But he didn't. And to me, you skipping all these steps, and we've seen it, Sherrod, and we've seen it, Kwani, how hard it is for these young men to come out of college. We were there the day James Young got drafted. What happened to James Young? First round pick, played a year and a half, never to be seen from. Even the kid on the Celtics now, J.D. Davidson, couldn't wait to get to the league. Out of Alabama, played 1 year, played 2 years in the G League. Now he's a free agent. Will he come? Well, the Celtics are probably going to bring him back on another two-way. Like, his future's in limbo. He's 21. Like, why would you want to do that to Bronny? And I'm not saying that the Lakers will not cut him, but they just signed him to a standard NBA contract, which kind of like messed up their cap a little bit. Like,
a lot of it.
What? Because he wasn't going to play. My man ain't playing on two-way. Like, he came in, whether it's Rich Paul's idea, LeBron's, you coming in with requirements. My boy
for the 55th pick.
He should have been on a two-way. He's a perfect okay, you want to try him out? Two-way. Nope. He goes sign a deal. Like, is that fostering his long-term success? That he's not ready. He get all the training he wants. Okay. I mean, to me, he's not ready. And Sherrod, as well, that the NBA is not the league to get ready in. It's not the league to get ready in. Now, if you work your ass off, you can work from a fringe guy to a contributor, right? There are those rare people. But we saw when Kobe came out of high school, you saw like, yeah, it's going to happen. It might not happen now, but he's going to be the dude. You saw it. We don't let our eyes fool you. We saw it. Every time you see a dude, that dude's, it's going to happen. We saw Tatum. We saw Brown. We saw these guys come out of school, and we were like, yeah. Do you see that when you see Bronny?
No, good athlete, not a great athlete, good
6'1".
athlete. Right. Doesn't as good wingspan, not great wingspan. Lateral quickness, good. I mean, he's a good player, but
he's 6'1", not Derrick White. Oh, Derrick White's 6'5", 6'6". Drew Holiday is 6'4" and mad strong.
Right.
Drew, you see Drew in person, you look like, damn, you taller than I thought. You see Drew in person, Drew's bigger than you think. Don't let the TV fool you. You see Drew's imposing.
Drew got some heat with him. Drew, don't
step up
get
to Drew. He ain't gonna walk up on Drew like that.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
My whole thing is, like, why would you fast track your son's development just so you want to play with him?
Because Garrett, you just answered the question with your response. Because you want to play with him. This is about LeBron. This isn't about Bronny.
It's not Griffey Sr. and Griffey Jr. Griffey Jr. was in the bigs by 19 years old. Like, he was starting in center field for the Seattle Mariners. Like, like to me, it's just like y'all. Nobody sees like why would you tell your son? Why would you tell Isaiah drop out of school and just come work in NBC Boston or wherever you're working because it's a good photo op and I can tutor you. Where he got 3 more years. Like you want him to take his natural road to have as much success as he personally can. Forget you. To me, it's Kwani. If your son, if you lying to yourself, if you think my son's ready to play in the league, he's ready to like work out with NBA players. Yeah, Sherrod, we could go. We when we in our younger days, we could have got on the court with dudes who were like, you know. I mean, we are in college playing pickup with dudes who are like D1 players, and like might not have embarrassed ourselves, but we were like, yeah, that dude's like, that dude's real good. Like, I'm
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you played pickup at Syracuse with dudes who were like NBA. I mean, you could stay on the court with them, but like,
yeah, Lawrence Moten gave me some buckets.
Yes.
He gave me some buckets, but he was Biggie's all-time leading scorer, so that's it.
Cal, you play with dudes who are on the team, and you're like, yeah, I see why that dude's on the team. Damn, that dude good. You know, I mean, we saw it. We could play on the same court, but that doesn't mean we're at that level. So I just think it's a disservice to Bronny to just fast-track him and take away college, take away his youth. You know, this ain't Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5. This ain't, no, you ain't Mike. You ain't, you know what I'm saying? We see it. We can see it. This ain't Carmelo after his freshman year at Syracuse. This ain't that, you know what I'm saying? If that was the case, I wouldn't say a word. But we saw it. And, he's got athletes. There's a lot of 6'1" athletes in the G League.
Yeah. Facts.
So, I don't know. I'm not the nepotism, whatever. I just don't like. I just pray for that kid can get as much success, and he'll not, and he won't skip steps, and he'll work. And you don't even see what kind of player he can turn into because we don't know yet. Is he going to be a scorer, a shutdown? Like someone brought up Avery Bradley. That's probably best case scenario.
But Avery was a different kind of athlete.
He was an elite,
and he had a ridiculous wingspan.
Yeah. Avery was an elite defender at 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a great shooter. He ended up playing 12 years in the league, being an elite defender. He worked on his shot, never made an all-star team or whatever. If that's your ceiling, a guy who never made an all-star team, okay. Like, to me, that shouldn't be your ceiling. Like, nothing against Avery. Avery did everything he could, you know.
Had a good career.
Yeah. Won a chip, I think, with the Lakers in the bubble. Like, Avery did all he could. He got out of his talent. But it's like, to me, if I'm like my son, I don't want a son drop out of school and we gonna hire you to cover high schools and then we can take pictures together. No, fool, you gonna finish your ass in school and you gonna go through all the camps and all the training, and then we gonna make sure you're ready. And you not only get to the league, because it's draft night is great. I mean, you cover guys. With Detroit, I cover guys in Seattle. They look good. They had the suit on, and then you never saw them again. Like, it's great to make the league and tell you, and play put it on a uniform. Don't you want more for your son than just that? I want him to be great, and I'm gonna no, dude, you ain't ready. You ain't ready to be great yet. Be great in college first. And then when you come, boom, you're going for Rookie of the Year.
That's right, Gary. And also, as we close out, we just got word that Xavier Tillman is going to be reuniting the crew. The gang's all back together. Again, the management ownership really trying to make all these deals before they close out. But Xavier Tillman, 2 years to reunite here in Boston as well. So that'll be an interesting addition, or I guess keeping of for the front court. But for Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis. This is the Big 3 NBA podcast. And of course, we'll continue to keep you all covered throughout this quote off season. Thanks for watching.